I thought we play a game. One hand. The winner decides who lives and who does not.
Yo, welcome back. So, I want to talk a little bit about this league, the Aldur League of Path of Exile 2, which is currently going, and a couple of things that has changed that I'm a little bit honestly confused about. But in general, this probably, or not probably, this is honestly one of the best updates we've ever had for PoE in general, from the point of me starting to play the game until now. I would say this is one of the greatest updates ever. However, there's like a handful of things that is like just a little bit weird to me, and things that I think they should consider changing and stuff like that, right? But first, before we get into a bunch of the details of the league and whatnot, I kind of want to talk a little bit about them getting the rarity bot, which to me is actually kind of peculiar, because I specifically remember both Jonathan and Mark talking about how beyond 150% rarity did not affect the drop rate of items that much, or basically did not have a effect that was worth the amount of investment it took to get there, right? And I have always argued that that's not true, that when you are using rarity beyond like 450, 500%, then the amount of divine drops and just general good drops go up by like a monumental amount compared to without it. And for some reason, they basically changed these gloves, right? Which is the majority of rarity bots were using these specific gloves because of this line right here where it says enemies in your presence killed by anyone counts as being killed by you instead. And this mod then applied all my rarity to all the kills within my presence. And if I hit this one, I can close this one. As you can tell, my presence is like all the way out here, right? Like that's like basically a full screen. You can just see the edge on the top corners here, right? Meaning everything that dies within this circle would apply my rarity, and my current rarity is, I actually forgot exactly what it is. Well, now it's 20% because I'm actually wearing the glove. It's 468% currently, right? Which, as you can see, when I put on the gloves, it drops down to 20 because they changed another line on here that says your other modifiers to rarity of items found do not apply. And that is like that did not exist beforehand, like before this league. It's something they just added. And I don't understand how they can argue that there is no benefit to having that high of a rarity and then turn around and completely and utterly gut the entire item that made it like easy to create, right? It makes absolutely zero sense to me that you're arguing that this has no effect, but then you're gonna nerf it because why? Like, that's what I want to know real quick, is how come they nerfed this if there was no effect, as they said, on the high rarity? I just don't understand that. Like, that it makes zero sense to me. But yeah, so that's just the one part that I feel like is like absolutely hella weird, right? Like, it's just so weird that they want to gut that. I just don't see why you're gutting something that's simply just a support build, right? Like, it's just not even, it's not doing no damage, it's not even really giving any benefits, depending on how you build it, of course, but it doesn't really do much, right? Other than it gives you better drops if you're running with a team. Yeah, I don't understand it, and I would love to get an answer on that. I would love to understand their thought process on this one because it just makes zero sense to me. But yeah, let's get into the rest of the league. All right, so another thing that I feel like they kind of made a little bit, like for this league it's okay, right? But I'm just thinking for the future, having to go to your map device every single time you want to travel to like the monastery or like Kartarth or the Withering Willow, or like you basically have to go to the map device to create a portal to go here, and I don't necessarily think that is great. I do like the fact you can do it, but I feel like we should be able to go there directly from our waypoints in like I can't, when I'm on the waypoint, I can't press this and just press traverse and go directly there. I have to go to the map device, open a portal, go through the portal, wait for the loading screen, get in there, do what I gotta do, then walk back through the portal basically and to get out. And I just think like it's fine right now, but give it like 5 to 10 leagues and you've played this so much, that is going to become one of those sore points that's going to just be annoying in general. Kind of like how the Abyss modifiers can only be revealed at the actual well. I feel like that should also, it should be someplace you go the first time you gotta do it. Like first time you want to reveal something, you go there, you do it, and then it unlocks the ability to just instant reveal stuff from your inventory basically. And I would be okay with that. I would be okay with having to go there the first time every league basically, but then afterwards I can just do it straight from my inventory. If that's possible, I would love to see something like that. I did have a slight issue to begin with, which is why I'm a little bit behind in terms of just like grinding stuff and getting all my points together. As you'll see right now, the bottom port is finished, this one is finished, and this one is finished, but the middle part, I haven't actually done this port yet. So what happened was after I completed my first area over here, I then was not able to like, I started completing maps in here, and then once I got to a certain point, all of a sudden like it wouldn't let me complete the maps anymore. It's changed now, right? But it just, every time I completed a map, or like every time I got to the end of the map and I killed the map boss and everything, and took the thing that comes out the ground, it just, when I got back out of that map, it was still lighting up blue. It just didn't, and I didn't get the actual like point from my atlas. So I was kind of stuck on that loop for a hot minute where I just couldn't, within the fortress itself, it just wouldn't let me complete it, right? So I was quite a bit behind due to that fact. However, now I have done, as you can see here, I've done most of it. I haven't spec'd into everything yet. There's a fairly good reason for that, because in terms of rogue exiles and strong boxers, I just personally don't like them too much. And if I'm not going to do a ton of Abyss, then there's no real reason for having the rogue exiles, because the only reason I would have the rogue exiles is for those guys to get the Abyss jewel from the rogue exiles, right? The Heart of the Well. That would be the only reason, in my personal opinion, to take those nodes, right? And given that I don't want those nodes and I cannot unspec those nodes after putting them in, I just decided to not get them at all. And that's why you see all the strongbox stuff missing and all the rogue exile stuff missing. And then there's a couple other things missing, kind of like this one. I don't really want to take this one because I don't want a specific essence. I'll take all of them, right? I don't want to take this one either. I don't necessarily want a specific spirit. I'll take all of them, right? I don't really give a fuck. I'll just take anything that goes in there and juices the map up. It doesn't have to be a specific one of them. So for that reason, I didn't take any of those points. And then there is this point as well. I didn't take this one because I kind of want to be able to control the bosses that are within the rituals, and if I take a summoning circle, it can spawn random bosses, and that kind of fucks with the whole idea a little bit, because you can get unlucky spawns with the bosses and you just get annihilated really quickly. So for that reason, I didn't actually take those. This one is one that I'm definitely going to take at some point in the near future, but the rest of it I'm not too keen on, so I'm not going to push super hard for that. So I personally think that they should do something to the strong boxes, make them a little bit more unique, kind of like we have the rite of passage from the spirits, which is like a specific drop that only comes from those guys. I feel like strong boxes need some type of special drop. I think that the rogue exiles by themselves kind of need a special drop as well, right? Like just whatever, some kind of item that only comes from those specific mechanics. I would love to see something like that. I think that's gonna make it a lot more interesting to take those notes. As I said, I'm not really super keen on taking them right now. I did test all the mechanics, so like the delirium, breach, the abyss, the temple, and the ritual. I've done a ton of stuff. I made like a couple hundred divines so far. I've got some pretty decent gear, right? Like it's not too crazy, but it's somewhat decent, right? Like it's definitely not bad. I'm fairly happy with how this has turned out so far. I am kind of missing my good boots because I'm not able to actually put them on currently, just because I don't have the resistances to cover it. But it is what it is. I put them up for sale, and hopefully they'll sell for a couple hundred divines or something like that. That would be absolutely insane. Then I have just found this quiver, which I kind of liked, and I thought, wow, this is actually some really decent mods on there, right? You have projectile speed and projectile skills. So I was like, yo, I should actually try and craft this into something valuable and then sell it, right? But from the magic stage right here, my initial idea was to go to the ritual omen here, the homogenizing omen of Regal, right? So you could get a mod that is a speed mod, because that's the only other mod that's on here, right? There's a speed mod and that's it. So if I were able to actually obtain this omen right here, I would have been able to basically get some attack speed on here, and then from that point forward I would be able to use one of my bones to get another mod, and then I only had to gamble basically 2 mods, right? And I thought that would be a good choice, but it turns out they have actually removed this omen, so this omen no longer exists in the game, even though there is a window for it right here. If you go to the trade market, it doesn't actually appear in there, so you can't buy it. Now, I was then thinking, well, okay, so we can't actually get our hands on that, so now I won't be able to get my attack speed on there. And I was like, oh wait, maybe the essence could do it, right? So I go to the essences, and long and behold, something I hadn't realized before, but I just realized right now, is there's really not a lot of essences that works on the quiver. There's really only one essence that works on the quiver, which is this one, and it gives accuracy. And that's it. The rest of them don't really fucking work on a quiver. So I was like, why don't we have any type of direct crafting material for the quivers? That makes absolutely 0 sense to me. Like, it actually is a little bit weird that every other weapon, or like every other type of equipment in the game, has some kind of basic like crafting essence that brings out somewhat useful mods, right? Like whatever it might be. If it's like damage mods or defensive mods, there's somewhat a essence for each side for all the different gear, except for the quivers. That's literally the only item in the game, as far as I know, that's not on the essence list of, like, you don't have essences to craft with. So I do think that they need to consider adding a couple of essences that's just strictly quiver quiver related, right? I think that would be very smart of them to do that, just because it feels a little bit demotivating that there is actually no currency to do it with directly. Like, just press this button and you get this mod, right? So yeah, and there's no sockets on quivers either, so you can't actually just put one of those new crafting runes in there and craft something. You can't. It kind of feels like you're forced to using whittles and like the uber high type of crafting materials, like this one, right? Like, what is this, like 4 div almost, right? Like you feel almost forced to using these, and these are all like super expensive each time you want to press the item once. So I do think they need to they strongly consider adding something to craft the basic parts of a quiver. Now, as you see, I'm not actually playing a bow build or anything. I have played bow builds in the past, though, but that's not the reason why I'm saying it. It's because I want a stronger character or anything. It's just, it feels weird, and that's why I'm saying it. So I do like that they added a ton of new socketables, let's call them that. Like the runes and the soul cores and the idols and all that stuff, right? I do really like and think it's a good idea to have these, because we currently don't have a crafting bench, right? So this is the next best thing, and they have added a ton of new ones that just have a ton of crazy and interesting things going on. So I do like that. I haven't even seen all of them yet. I haven't really dived too deep into what they do, but I just had a quick overlook and to see like kind of what it was and what was going on. I definitely like that. I think it was a very good addition. They also added some new I was about to say oils, but it's not oils, it's distilled dreams or nightmares, or whatever they called them. And those, they also added some new ones. I'm, again, not entirely sure what all these does, because I haven't really checked it out too much. I haven't gone too deep on it yet. But I do think that it's also another, again, very reasonable add to it, or to the game. I do like them. I think it's a smart way to go about it. But again, I think we need to do that to every basically type of gear in the game, right? I'm gonna roll back to something that I have talked about for a million times before, but I'm gonna say it again, and that is the fact that we have to collect the amount of charms and flasks that we currently have in order to get one that has good mods on it, right? Like, if there's a specific mod I want on here, and I want to get them in a somewhat decent tier as well, right? Like, as you can see, my bottles are terrible right now. Not terrible, but it's terrible tiers on here, right? Like, and to get good tiers on your bottles, you would like, I tested this the past 3 leagues, and I on average have to pick up somewhere in the 150 to 200 bottles in order to hit one that has like decent enough mods to where it's something I want to keep for the remainder of the league. And I think that we currently need some kind of currency that's like the Glassblow's bubble, but it's like an augmentation orb or like a transmute orb or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But it's just strictly for bottles and charms. And it's something that just re-rolls the 2 mods over and over. At least that way I can keep rolling it a flash till I hit 1 mod that I want, and then try to annul the other mod off and then hit another one, instead of having to sit there and annul both mods on, then add 2 new mods, then annul them off, then add 2 new, or pick up 200 bottles and try to roll them every time, right? Like, did it hit no, I didn't even get one of the mods, throw it out, next one. And that shit sucks. I think that sucks. I would much rather that we had like a direct currency that just instantly changes the mods on the charms and the bottles, and that's basically all they do, right? Like, I do not want to have that for the items. I don't want to sit and AUG spam a pair of gloves to get 2 tier 1 mods, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what I'm trying to do here. I would be willing to do that to the charms and the bottles, but not all my gear, because it'll take forever. So yeah, that's another thing I feel like the game is needing really, really harsh right now, is something to re-roll that with. Now, let's talk a little bit about the new Atlas, right? Because this has changed monumentally. Now, I have always, from day one, said I thought that this was a really, really, really good mechanic in terms of just the feel of exploration and the feel of not like there's no limit to it. You're not like necessarily done with it, right? Like you can't really do all maps on the Infinite Atlas because it's technically infinite, right? So but I think, honestly, I think this mechanic has evolved into something even beyond what I thought was they were capable of making, right? So this is kind of what my idea was with the Atlas, that we had zones that was specific to a mechanic, like the Delirium zone, or like we have a Ritual zone right here, or we have a Breach zone, or Corruption zone, or Abyss zone, and Val City zone. And given that we have this much space around the fortress, you could technically have another section right here with another mechanic that could be the no, we have the expedition, right? But that could be, let's say, something different. Then this up here is something different, and this over here is something different, and then maybe this side and this side right here out that way is for Ubers and Citadels and like stuff like that, right? Like that's fine, but that actually does make it possible to create a couple more leagues and still fit it into this area. And then afterwards, once we fill up the area enough to where there's no longer space to add a new league, then you just start rotating them, right? And you just move, let's say you move the Delirium down here, and then you add some other mechanic right up here, and then you just rotate that like out and in of the inner circle around the fortress as you get new leagues. And I think that is a healthy and really good way to go about it, because this is so much easier to understand for newer players. And one of my biggest issues with the endgame before this league was that I had to spend a lot of time helping out newer players. Well, I didn't have to, but I did that because of that. I didn't want them to quit the game because they did not understand how to actually play this, like, quote unquote end game, right? So I spend a lot of time helping people out, understanding how to use a map, how to get more divines per hour, what to grind, how to do it, how to like understand what's better and what's worse and stuff like that, right? And I feel like it's a lot more intuitive now. It's a lot more straight lined, or like streamlined, where you just you get to the cigarette refuge, and once you get to your first precursor tower, you'll automatically start seeing the fortress. And from that point, you can start exploring, right? But you'll always see those zones around this area once you discover this this starting area, right? And I think that it's a lot more in like obvious where and what to do when you are introduced to a mechanic visually through the map itself, like this, right? Where you get a task to complete, so like X amount of this, X amount of that, do this, do that, right? Like there is an actual physical quest to go on to complete this part of the game, which it didn't have before. So a lot of people just get through the campaign part, and when they get to the end game, they might not even know there is a cigarette and an Atlas, right? Because that is not, honestly, that is not super obvious when you get through the interludes, that you have to go back to Act 4, and then you talk to the hidden one, and then you go to the cigarette. And the only reason it's like that right now is because we don't have Act 5 and Act 6, and I understand that, but it's just not super obvious, right? So I do understand why people were getting confused and why they couldn't figure everything out that easy. Now, if you're like me, if you played a ton of PoE 1 before you started playing PoE 2, these type of things is obviously not necessarily an issue for you, because you have a fairly good understanding of the mechanics, even though they aren't one-to-one with PoE 1, they at least are recognizable, and you have an understanding of both like the mechanic itself and the reward systems, and like the scaling of damage or scaling of defenses, the understanding of the mechanics, how to get past a certain point, how to get to higher maps, all those things. If you're a seasoned PoE 1 player, these things come natural, right? Because you are kind of used to it. But if you came from Diablo 4, or even worse, if you came from, like, let's say Call of Duty, and this is the first time you're ever playing an ARPG, these things are gonna be so fucking obscure to somebody who does not know what the game is. And I'm saying that because I actually presented one of my really, really, really good friends with the game and asked him to, like, basically just told him, try and play the game real quick. And then I didn't want to tell him exactly how to play the game, right? I just asked him, like, intuitively sit down and do what you think you need to do to actually play the game. And like after 5 minutes, he said, I have no fucking idea. Like, I don't even know where do we go to do anything? Like, what is this game? And I had to kind of like sit down and explain, well, you have to go to the map device, you have to grab a map out of the stash, you put some mods on the map, and you have to know what mods is good for you and what's not good for you, right? That basically comes from understanding your build, right? Because if your build is extremely vulnerable to chaos damage or like to critical damage, then you probably don't want mods on your map that has extra chaos damage or extra crits. But all these aspects of the game for a new player is invisible, right? You don't actually know these things. It's something that comes with experience and time. It's not something that's instantly recognizable when you're looking at the screen or like looking at what you're seeing in the game. So adding all these points of interest and making it so you are kind of bottlenecking the experience in a way where it doesn't hurt the players like myself who have played the game for an obscure amount of time. It doesn't hurt us because we already knew how the systems work and how to get to the point we want to get to. But I can recognize how fucking extremely easy it is to see how a mechanic works now, because you're getting introduced to every mechanic one by one, and it's your choice which mechanics you want to do. And obviously there are some people who kind of like feel like they're missing out on stuff because they may be doing delirium and somebody else is doing ritual, and they see them getting mage blood from ritual, and now they feel like they're missing out because they were doing delirium. But the thing is, nobody is really missing out, because that's the beauty of the game, is every mechanic or league has its own set or subset of items or subset of currencies or something like that that's specific to this one mechanic, and those in itself can hold value. For instance, with the last league where we had the temple insaneness, where it just dropped infinite amount of loot on the floor consistently throughout every single temple. Didn't matter like what, you just always got like 100 divines, easy, no problem, right? But what I actually made a ton of divines on last league was not necessarily the temple. I did do some temple runs, not that many honestly, but I did do a fair bit, right? But I made, in my opinion, I made way more currency from doing abysses, right? Because less people were doing that, meaning that given that the ancient bones and like the omen of light and stuff like that was highly usable for every player, no matter what kind of gear you're using, no matter what, you see what I'm getting at, right? Like, no matter what you're doing or what you're trying to achieve, those specific currencies was super valuable for everybody. And for that reason, their value skyrocketed it skyrocketed due to the amount of drops that the temple was producing. So for me, finding like 5 fucking omens of lights in one map, right? And it's like 50, 60, 70 divines for an Omen of Light, and I'm just finding 5 of them, then I'm finding 2 of them, then I'm finding 3 of them, then I'm finding, and it kept going like that over and over and over, and I was like just shitting out these Omens of Light like it was no one's business, right? And it just made me so much currency so fast. It was crazy. Also dropped my first mirror last league outside of Temple, by the way. I did drop some in Temple, but I don't want to count those because I don't feel like they were legit drops. They were inflated drops, right? So they don't really, in my mind, they don't count the same way. Whereas the first actual mirror drop I got was when I was playing in a regular augury or something like that with Abyss. And I just randomly fucking dropped a mirror and was like, what the? It's solo, by the way, all by myself too. Amazing, absolutely incredible. Super stoked about that. But I'm also thinking, like, how many people are new to the game and accidentally drop a mirror like within their first couple of weeks of playing the game without actually knowing what it is, and they don't have a valuable evaluating program, or they don't have, like, I'm using the Awakened PoE and whatnot, right? They don't have a program like that. They don't have an idea. Maybe they don't even have people they play with, right? Like, they might not have any friends they play with or stuff like that. How many of those people are going to understand that that thing is like basically the best currency drop in the game that exists? I don't know, man. It's just, sometimes I feel like, although it's super beneficial to myself in terms of I prefer to learn stuff by figuring it out, I can also see how this can be like the stop clause that makes somebody not wanting to play the game or continue playing the game because they just simply cannot figure it out, right? They cannot understand. They're having a hard time understanding what they're actually looking at because there's so many aspects. Now, I like that personally, but I can't see how for new players that is tough. And I understood it in a way where that the mentality behind making PoE 2 was to create a game that was opening an opportunity for people to get in on the ground floor instead of PoE 1 that has been going on for 13, 14 years, where even myself getting into that game was extremely taxing on time and effort. Like, it took me a lot of effort and a lot of time to learn because there were so many aspects of the game, and there's still tons and tons and tons of things that I just simply do not understand yet about PoE 1 because it's so incredibly vast in terms of content and like replayability and stuff like that. Now, with PoE 2, I got in on the ground floor, and I already had some experience to bring over from PoE 1, and that just gave me such a leg up in comparison to somebody who is completely new to it, right? It made me be able to craft fairly easily. It made me be able to understand how to make a build fairly easily and make stuff work, even though I made a bunch of failed builds too that didn't work because it was like an idea that just ended up turning out not to work the same way that I had envisioned it. But I also made some fucking insane builds that was absolutely broken, and they nerfed them immediately. So yeah, it's in terms of having a complete game that's easy to jump into but super intricate and like very like massive and big and has like a ton of mechanics but still understandable for, let's say, a regular person. It's a really hard balance, man. It's a tough balance because I, I, I do think that it's gonna be tough for some players, especially when we go free to play, right? And there's gonna be an influx of new players because it goes free to play, and there's a ton of new players that are gonna come into the game, and they're gonna have absolutely no idea what they're doing, right? They're gonna have no clue how the game works, and they're gonna have no clue how anything, like the values of items or anything. So there's a lot of like learning that has to happen for those people to enjoy the game. Now, if GGG is smart, they'll put guides, or not guides, but they'll make a general like, let's call it like a general highway that people can go down and they'll have somewhat success with the game. They might not end up being the most like rich players, anything like that. That's not the goal. The goalpost should be making it accessible for people, right? Even people who might not necessarily play ARPGs for as their like main game, right? I think that would be the best way to go about it. Now, keeping that in balance with making it still challenging and interesting for people like myself who played a ton of stuff or played a ton of hours on it, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. But I think that if any company out there is able to do it, it would be GGG, just because of them being players themselves for like first before being developers. Means that they have a lot more, like a lot better understanding of what is actually needed, right? At least in some aspect of it, where maybe in other times they need a little bit of inspiration from the community. Like I do believe that we give them a lot of inspiration by giving them a ton of ideas and sharing that shit with them, right? Like I think that's a really, really good way to go about it. Now, for the expedition port down here, as you can see, I have not even done the quest, right? Like I have literally only done 2 maps. That's it. That's all I have. Well, I did do these over here to get to the Jadal, but besides that, that's all I've done so far, right? And the remnants weren't too good. They did change them, so they are definitely a lot better now than they were day one. But I'm not gonna talk too much about this specific part of this league because, as I said, I haven't really gotten to jump deep into it yet, which is something that's on my list, and it's one of the next things I'm gonna focus on is like getting into the logbook situation and figuring this stuff out and understanding how it works and what's like what will be beneficial and what's worth it and what's not, right? So I don't want to speak too much on that. I do, however, I really like the idea of it. I love the idea of changing the I wouldn't say changing the core mechanic, but changing the mechanic in a way that makes it more easily understandable and better rewards and more special rewards that's specific to this mechanic itself. Now, I do like that part. I think that's a very clever and very smart way to go about it. Right, so another thing that kind of got on my mind is now they changed the essence in a way where you can't have 2 essence modifiers on an item, where beforehand you could actually technically have like 3 or 4, right? So I could technically make an item. Let's say we have a bow with percent increased physical damage and attack speed, and then I would be able to use this essence to give it flat physical, and then could add some mods maybe, and then we could use this one to give it some levels, and then we were maybe able to use this one to give it onslaught, and right, like there's just we could like put a bunch of mods on there from these essences, which now you can only actually like have the one modifier from your essences. So if not these did I not use, maybe I didn't use essence on any of these actually. I don't think I did. No. All right. Where did I put? No. Did I not put one aside? I thought I could have sworn I put one aside that I would started crafting. Maybe not. Alright, maybe not. Might be misremembering that one. Alright, never mind. Basically, we were able to put multiple essence modifiers onto an item beforehand. We aren't any longer. I don't know. I think we should be able to put 1 greater essence and 1 perfect, but that's it. I don't think we should be able to have like multiple of the greater or multiple of the perfects. I just think we should be able to make one of each, basically. I don't really like the change where you can't have, like, let's say you get like a really decent melee weapon and you put the flat on, and then now all you really need is some attack speed, but then you hit some really shitty mods, and now you can't just put some onslaught on there for now and then craft a new one later. Now you actually have to just gamble and hope for the best, or you have to use a whittling, which is stupid expensive, which is how I made this ring, basically. And it's just super expensive, and it's just annoying as fuck to have to spend that kind of currency just to make what you want. And I honestly didn't even get what I wanted, because as you see, I have this remnant you create have 8% increased effect, and I don't want that. So now I have to make now I have to use the Omen of Light on top of having already used 2 whittles on this ring, right? Like, it's just not, it just does not feel quite worth it to me. It feels like I'm spending so much, and it's so RNG kind of, right? Like, all I wanted on this ring was life, so I tried to whittle on life, and it ended up being evasion. And I was like, okay, I'm gambling now. I'll just hit it with the bone and then hope it takes away any modifier that isn't a minion modifier. So I did that. I was lucky and I hit it. And although I do use evasion rating, so this isn't a dead mod, I was like, fuck, man, just give me some life from desecrating it. And I've already used 2 Omens of Light, and both times this has been the best mod I've gotten both times, or like all 3 times basically. And I've used the Abyssal Echoes every time I've rolled it, so I've actually had 6 tries to hit any type of mod that's useful for me, and I still haven't been able to hit one. And it's just, I don't know, man. I think it's too fucking RNG still when it comes to certain parts of the crafting system. I still think that they need to, I still think that homogenizing Omen was one of the like best actual, how do I say this in a way that's, it was like one of the best types of omens in terms of being able to create at least a 4 mod item that was really good, right? Whereas now I think, or I feel, it feels a little bit like a 3 mod item that's really good is pretty much as good as it gets, and from that point forward, you kind of either have to spend an absolute godly amount of currency, or you have to gamble. Completely, utterly gamble blind and just hope for the best. And I don't know, man. I think that the crafting system in PoE 1 is just a lot more like, there's a lot more player agency, if that makes sense. Whereas I kind of think that we don't have that here. There's just not enough. And that could be a 2-parter thing, right? It could technically be because we don't have enough leaks yet, so there's not enough different fucking currencies to craft with. And for that reason, that's why it feels like it's kind of lacking a little bit on the crafting side of things. Now, I'm not saying that crafting is necessarily bad, because you can absolutely craft some absolutely incredibly powerful stuff. And I've basically crafted everything except for my my scepter, right? Everything else I crafted myself. The boots, the gloves, the belt, the armor, the helmet, right? And the rings, and that's right, I traded for the amulet as well. So the amulet and the scepter I traded for. The rest I made myself. But it just, again, it felt kind of like I was having to gamble a lot, and I just was really lucky on that. As you can tell, basically, I found this belt, but it had like lightning. I believe it was lightning and chaos. Did it have the fire as? I don't remember. It definitely had lightning and chaos, and I feel like it had the charm effect duration. And then from that point, I basically just had to gamble the last couple of months, right? At that point, I didn't have the collarbone, so I couldn't really desecrate the belt itself. But again, I hit some really decent mods on here because what I was looking for was resistances, but I also kind of wanted to get some life, and as you can see, that did not happen. Yet again, I have to use a whittling to try and whittle off the bad mods to then try and get life, which is going to be super expensive because it's so RNG that, you know, like, it's just, man, I don't know. It just does not feel right to me. It does not feel right. It's close, though. It's close. Don't get it wrong. It's close, but it's just not quite there yet. So I think they need to focus a little bit on that. I think they need to think about it. They need to consider exclusively how powerful should crafting be, and then they gotta make that power level available to all types of items and all types of characters. Basically, they gotta have it's gotta be as easy to craft the bow as it is to craft the wand, as it is to craft the quiver, as it is to craft the shield. It cannot be that it's super easy to craft the shield and it's extremely almost impossible to craft the wand, right? Like, that's just, it needs to be some kind of balance to that. Where right now it does feel like certain items is really hard to make and other items is incredibly easy to make, right? And sometimes you can be really lucky, and you can pick up something off the ground that's just a crazy good starting like part to craft off of. Let me see if I didn't pick up something recently that's... Oh, right. So I kind of... Okay, so I can explain it with these boots, and there's a reason why they look like this. So I dropped these boots earlier, and they had tier 1 cold resist and tier 1 fire resist. And then there was the stun threshold and the movement speed. And they dropped as a 4-mod item like this. And immediately my go-to idea was, let me just try and bone this and see if I can remove the stun threshold and then get some resistances on here instead. And then I'm willing to gamble the other two with perfect exalt, the other two prefixes, right? But even this is so RNG that I was like, fuck, okay, I didn't hit it. Well, these are trash now. They just go in the stash. I'll throw them out later or something, give them away, whatever. Again, we have like these pair of boots right here is another good example of a good ass story, right? Like, technically here I'm a little bit more inclined to use the essence, right? I would, for these, I would probably put a bone suffix here, and then I would use the essence that gives you movement speed, so you could get 30 movement speed. And then once I have the 30 movement speed, I would just perfect exalt with the greater exaltation here, and then I would get my 2 prefixes, and I have the 30 movement speed, and I have triple res, right? Like, so that is not bad, right? Like, you can start out from a base like that, and you will have a pretty decent or pretty large there'll be room for success, right? There's a pretty large chance that you'll hit something that's absolutely usable, right? Kind of like these boots is, again, like, these are really nice too, because weird drop that it drops a pair of boots that just have the 2 mods and they aren't. See, this would have been 10 times nicer if it was actually a magic item and not a rare item, because then I would have been able to use an essence on them. And now, like a resistance essence, right? But now I have to gamble, basically. And again, I still think that, like, I don't mind there being gambling in the game per se, right? Like, I kind of like that. I like to have something to gamble on. But on the other hand, I also like to have some kind of agency. I would definitely prefer that this pair of boots drop like these did, right? So I can now, like, this, even though it's tier 2, it's still kind of worth trying to craft these, right? Just because it's a good start. So I could technically just hit this with some essence of resistance and get some resistance onto the boots, and then bone the last resistance, and then I would have triple res plus 30 movement speed, and then I could just gamble the last 2 mods, right? I'm fine with that. But if I have to find them like this, or I have to sit there and spam the aux and nulls, like, I kind of feel like we're back at the same spot where we were with augmentations They are called augmentations, right? In PoE1, maybe I'm mixing it up here. But then we're kind of back to just alt spamming, alterations, not augmentations, alterations. So alteration orbs basically allows you to take a magic item and then reforge it over and over and over until you hit a mod that you want, basically, right? Like you can basically end up with 2 tier 1 mods that's basically perfect, and then from that point forward you continue the craft and so on and so forth. I just don't know, man. I think that there's definitely room for improvement on that part. Now the general game in itself, going through the campaign, getting into the end game, or like let's say going through the campaign, getting through the mid game of doing your maps and stuff, and then getting into the end game, that journey has been made just so much smoother. It's so much more intuitive. It's so much smoother. And once you start understanding what to look for in the different spots, like what's a good example here? Like the Viper, what is it called again? The Act 3 where you get the bottles, right? Like the I can't see that, but this spot right here, right? Like the jungle ruins or wherever the fuck you go to get the snake vial thing. If you're looking on the floor in that area, you can see little snakes on the floor, and they all go in the direction of where this tomb or like dungeon is, right? So once you start understanding those little telltale signs, that's all over the place now. That is just phenomenal. I love that. I absolutely love the fact that they changed a lot of the maps, right? So there was just a handful of maps that had parts about the map that was unbearably annoying. One thing that I personally was just super annoyed with and really kind of at times pissed me off almost, right, was the what's it called, that map that has the is it Sun? It's Sun Temple that has a big sun in the middle, and if you just were anywhere in the nearby of that sun, you would start degenning your life or energy shield, whatever, right? Immediately. And that just led to so many unfortunate deaths. And not only did it lead to deaths that was unfortunate, once you're playing in a fucking group and one person dies and it's close enough to where the sun can touch you, now you can revive that person. And that person is basically either you start the whole level like over from the beginning, or you just leave that guy and you just go on and he just doesn't get to continue through that. Like with you guys, you're gonna have to find a new group to play with, and it's so annoying, right? But they now changed it, so you actually have to be on the platform with the sun for it to start degenning you. If you're just somewhere around it doesn't degen you. Like, I love the fact that they are aware and changing those type of things and making it more fair in some way and more enjoyable, I would say. So they did that to a ton of different maps. They changed a bunch of stuff like that. Small changes that I don't feel like they necessarily put into the patch notes and whatnot, but small, subtle changes that's just infinitely quality of life improvements, right? Like, it's just incredibly 10,000 times better to play that specific map now compared to before, right? And that goes, again, that goes for a lot of things. Now, I do want to say one thing. There's a little bit just maybe over the top here. New players, I don't think that Delirium in general is like a super new player friendly mechanic, right? Because it's not obvious. It's not exactly obvious what it does, right? Like how bad it is. So when you put 200% Delirium on a map and you expect a new player to run through that map, it's that's gonna be a little bit tough, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, I see that as a little bit of a challenge for some players who are newer to the game. Like, they're gonna come in this area, they're not gonna understand quite what 200% Delirious means, and once they get to a certain point, they're just not gonna be able to fucking complete the map because it's just too much, right? Now I can do the 200 Delirious maps, which is actually, honestly, I've only really had one other build that was capable of doing that in a stable, grindable way where I actually feel like I can just do it. Like I can open up the map and go do it with no problem. Obviously, there's limits to it, right? Because I definitely just found my limit of my build currently, which is doing a 200 deli map with 4 tablets and having the 30 wisp spawns, and then putting the wisps onto the map bus in a 200 deli map with 4 tablets, and putting the shrine effect onto the boss as well turned out to be like too much, right? Like my build just couldn't handle it. It just instant died. Like he just looked in my direction and I was just dead immediately. Like there was just nothing to do. I did also have that same experience with an essence monster the other day that ended up getting like 12 or 13 spirits into it, and then I hit it with the exalt orb to put another essence on there, and then I corrupted it, which double corrupted it, and yo, it was like insane. There was like 8 essences and 12 spirits on that thing, and when I released it from the prison it was in, the speed of the monster was so incredibly fast that I didn't actually see it move. It just instant killed me, like instantaneously. Now I was able to kill that monster because I came back. It wasn't a 6 mod map. It was a 4 mod map, luckily for me. So I had 3 portals to play with, and I was able to go back in there and then basically kill it. But it took quite a while for me to like DPS him down enough to where he died, right? Like it's just incredible how fast and how tough he was. It's a really hard fight, and I would say that was almost harder than most of the boss fights in the game. Now the boss fight with all the wisps and the thing, that was incredible. That was impossible. I didn't even bother. Like I just quit that map and was like, yeah, okay, that's too much. But I just see that as a little bit of a problem for newer players. Also, the fact that we cannot turn off map or the atlas point, right? So we can't turn the juicing down once you're taking it. Like once you've grabbed these nodes, you can't unspec any of them, and you can't just turn them off. So what happens when I then make my next character? Because I do want to play the new monk ascendancy. I want to try that out real quick. What happens when I get my monk to levels, like let's say 60, 65, and I gotta go into a tier 1 map? Am I gonna have all of this juice on my tier 1 map? Because then I'm gonna be in a little bit of fucking trouble. You know what I mean? Like, how am I fucking gonna be able to do that unless I gain all the gear I need for the character and make sure the build actually functions the way I've envisioned it? Otherwise, I'll just instant die consistently every time I go into a map because I'm not going to be able to kill something that has 15 wisps on it or some shit like that, right? It's just not going to be physically possible at that stage of the game. So my question is, do they really want to keep this permanent like it is right now? Or do they want to allow us to turn nodes off so we can make a new character, get through the game, and then turn them on as we get strong enough to actually be able to do the content that it unlocks, right? Because as I see it right now, that's going to be really fucking hard for me to do, and I'm going to have to rely on public parties playing with people who do not have the full atlas unlocked. Because otherwise, I'm going to be in trouble being a new character, right? So that's like the gist of it when it comes to this league. Like that's just the gist of what I have been kind of looking into, what I've been researching, testing, and all that stuff. As I said, I made sure to try every single league mechanic except for the one that this league is actually about. But like all the previous leagues we've had, I've tested all those mechanics and tried them out and made sure that I will say one thing now, when it comes to the temple, it's a little bit buggy right now, where sometimes when it destabilizes the temple and you lose access to, like, I've just been doing the Atsiri fights, right? So I just go straight for the key, for the architect, then the key, then the boss, right? So one thing I've noticed here, and as you'll see on this current temple that I have right here, notice how this isn't a road up here. This is like a barracks, armory, or arsenal barracks, right? And the reason for that is when I did the previous run to the run that I had going here, what happened is it destabilized this part right here, which was like just a regular road like it is here in the middle. And once it destabilized this port, I could no longer add one of these normal roads to this top part up here. Like this road right here was blocked up here, and I could not add a regular road to it, no matter which one it was. I was trying to add this one, which is a 4-way path, so that should definitely be able to go into this spot. But it was impossible. It just did not allow me to place something there, except for an actual room itself. So I had to do the barracks and then wait for an armory, then add the armory and get another barracks. Which I understand you want to nerf the temple, but Jesus Christ, like that's not a nerf. That's like you have created a new bug in the temple, which is annoying as fuck. When you can't place an actual like piece of road because now it's just weirdly bugged where it just doesn't allow you to. I don't know, man. Like, guys, I get that they aren't happy about the snaking method, right? Like, I understand that, but is it that important? Like, let me say it in a different way. Are you willing to create, like, are you willing to create bugs for the game that's, like, basically makes it, I wouldn't say unplayable, but it makes it so annoying that people will stop playing because of those type of things? Or are you willing to, like, say, okay, we're gonna have to change some things, but we can't we can't change it in a way that fucks with anything else, right? Like, and I'm just wondering, like, what's the mentality here? What's the exact idea of wanting to, like, fix this? Because I understand that they don't want that snaking shit to come back, and I don't want that to come back, because I personally did not fucking like that. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was, honestly, it was boring as fuck. First and foremost, you could just die as much as you wanted to. There was absolutely no negative things, and the amount of loot you got was absolutely too much. Like, not even close to being fair or like ethical or like acceptable. It was just completely outrageous. But that was not the only part. It was also the fucking amount of experience you got was so disgustingly, like, I stopped playing because of that. Because it just took all the competitiveness away from getting level 100. There's just no competition there, because the temple was just the one, and everything else was just not even in the same conversation. At least with the currency part of it, we did have other, like, avenues of gaining currency and actually feeling like you were making good currency per hour. For instance, with the Abyss, or like with other stuff, there was other stuff too that just made it feel really, really good. So they are really gonna have to ask themselves if they're willing to create like game-breaking bugs just so they can fix a problem with some loot drops and whatnot. Now, as I said, I'm not a fan of the temple by any means. That is not my type of mechanic. Absolutely not. Like, I do like the temple when I go fight that Siri fight and stuff. I think that's very, very nice, the way that's set up. But the whole snaking shit was terrible. I made a full temple and then I accidentally looped it. And once I looped it, it was over, and that ruined the league not ruined the league, but that just made me not want to play no more, right? Like, it's just, okay, I'm not gonna sit here and fucking grind out a full-on new temple because it's gonna take me forever. And I do not want to do that. And the fact that I could lose it instantly again like that, it's just, I do not want to fucking deal with that headache. So yeah, I still think that it's a 9 out of 10 league for me, but there is like some new questions that has arisen or arised from having played this league. Like, it has given me new questions to ask, right? Like, about how stuff works and how the mentality behind it is, right? Like what they're thinking. And now, as you can see, this is also currently bugged for some weird reason. Usually it shows how much gold you've picked up, how much you've been spending on trading, how much you spend on gambling and whatnot, and it just doesn't work now. It worked last league, but now it just really it just doesn't work anymore. Which is obviously. If you made it this far, why not leave a like, comment, and subscribe, all that good jazz that just incentivizes me to make more content, right? And then I do love making this stuff. I just wish I had more time to do it, right? But yeah, I hope you all have a great day, a great evening, whatever it might be for you. And as always, I will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one.